I'm Adam, and this is Heidi, my beautiful wife, the owner of Frenchs Forest MindChamps. And thanks for joining us on a Facebook Live feed late on a Wednesday night at 8 p.m. I'm sure everyone's busy and got lots of things to do and getting kids to bed, but we thought it'd be a great opportunity to sort of showcase a little bit about what we do at the center here. At the same time, we get so many parents ask us so many different questions about, choosing the right childcare, about educators and what happens in the room. And it's just a good opportunity for us as owners to sort of share a little bit about what happens a little bit behind the scenes and how to sort of look for the best childcare center for your child if you are looking at the moment. We've got 1 hour live. We're going to also be introducing our center director, Neysa, a little bit later, and she's going to talk a little bit about her story. And we're going to also showcase just some different activities that happen at the center and sort of demonstrate, the different activities and different age groups on how they sort of learn when they're at the center. So as Heidi did mention, if you do have any questions that you want to get answered specifically, just write them in the comments and we'll be able to read them. And we've already got lots of people that submitted questions earlier that we're going to go through ourselves during the live feed. So I thought maybe we could start first maybe with Heidi just introducing herself and telling a little bit about her story and our story on how we sort of got into childcare back when we were living. We've got 3 children ourselves. Chloe, our eldest, is 10 years old. Lucas is 9 and Marcus is 3. Marcus attends MindChamps Frenchs Forest now, which is lovely to come to the center and drop Marcus off. But why don't you just tell us a little bit about being a first-time mum and dropping Chloe off and how that experience was for you and why we sort of got into childcare.
Yeah, I guess before I start with that, I just really want to take advantage of this opportunity to help mums out there that are looking for childcare, because I remember what that's like. It can be a really daunting experience, especially as a first-time mum. Pregnant mum, and you're going into these places that feel so foreign, you have no idea what to ask. So I guess I really want to be able to support mums with that decision and to, I guess, for the children's sake. I mean, we care so much about children. Adam has a martial arts business, Krav Maga Northern Beaches, and teaches hundreds of children every week how to defend themselves, how to build confidence, resilience. And then we have our 2 childcare centres here at Frenchs Forest and Annandale, and we're really passionate about impacting the lives of children. And so that also comes with supporting families and making sure they're making the right decision when they're choosing a childcare centre for their child, because it's really a partnership with the centre and the families. They need to work together, from things like turning up in the morning and for the educators and carers to be informed of, oh, my child got no sleep last night, or they're up all night, so they're probably going to need their first morning sleep a bit earlier this morning at 8:30 instead of 9. To the end of the day, the educators and carers really making sure that they're communicating back. I know as a mum, when I pick Marcus up, I want to know when he last ate, if he slept or didn't he sleep, and for how long, because that's going to affect the rest of my night. So they're the basics, but then there's a lot more behind that. So anyway, back to the question is, we got into the childcare industry a few years ago in 2018. It kind of started in 2016. I was a physiotherapist at the time, so I used to be a sports and musculoskeletal physiotherapist. And Adam was running a martial arts gym. We're living in Darwin. We went to a conference in the Philippines, a business conference, and we heard a speaker there called David Chen, who's actually the CEO and founder of MindChamps. And what he spoke about was, I guess, the MindChamps philosophy and the focus on not just education, but mindset for children. All the different values, resilience, it's the personal development side. There's 4 domains of research, which is neuroscience, education, theatre and psychology. And all these things really appealed to me as a mum with 2 young children. I think Lucas was 1 and Chloe was 3 at the time, something like that. And I was having a really bad experience with the childcare centres that they went to. I always tell people, I just remember dropping, this was up in Darwin, and whilst the educators, they were lovely people, but I just remember having to go, because I started this little physio practice, having to get to work and chasing them around the yard, like, can you take my child? I've got to go. And there just didn't seem to be that sense of connection. I didn't. Then we came back to Sydney, and I had another experience where it's like, do you know who my child is? Like I'd say my child Lucas, and they're like, Lucas. I was like, how's his day? Yeah, yeah, it was good. It's like, I don't know that you actually know much about my child at all. And I just didn't have a positive interaction experience with childcare at the time, and I would feel really anxious about taking my children to childcare because I didn't feel like it was the right thing. So that's how we heard David speaking. I love the sound of this concept of childcare. I was like, do you have centres here in Australia, in Sydney? Because I want to send my children. They didn't at the time, but we partnered with MindChamps and opened the first franchise centres here in Australia. And that really came from a passion of wanting to make a difference in the lives of children. It came from, I guess, being a mum and, first and foremost for my children, but then also children in the community. I could see big gaps and wanted to make sure all children had access to a safe space, that mums and dads felt really happy when they dropped their children at childcare. And yeah, that's, I guess, the story behind where we are.
And I think a lot of that came from that experience that, you had and we had in Darwin, where it wasn't the best experience. And as Heidi said, I mean, everything was fine there, but we knew that we could do better. We wanted to make sure that we had a center that, had good grounding and philosophy, which we did find, and, make sure that we have staff that are, on point and caring, because at the end of the day, the staff are, the key asset for running the childcare center, and make sure that everything is going to the best of its ability. And I guess through that challenge, sort of triumph an opportunity for us.
Yeah, definitely.
Why don't you tell us about, mums and maybe, you as an owner of a childcare center and also mother of 3 children, mums go through different things. If you could give them a little bit of advice when they're looking for a center, or perhaps, getting involved, what tips would you sort of have for a mum looking to enroll in childcare?
Yeah, I guess the first thing I would say that's really important when you're looking for a childcare centre is that you get the feel that they're going to care about your child, that they're interested in your child, that they're not just another number, that they don't just kind of zip you through on a tour. So I guess I'll speak to mums that are looking, first-time mums looking for a centre. You might turn up on a tour or the phone call before the tour. What's I guess, like, what are they asking you? Are they asking you anything? Are they just letting you know what they do, or are they finding more about your child and your family? Because it's really important that it's the child, but also the family, because the child is part of that unit. So the family needs to feel comfortable. And what's mum and dad looking for? We get a whole range of parents coming through. So there's, full-time working parents, both parents working full-time, say, for example, in the city. A lot, they're looking for accessible locations, so they can drop off on the way driving through to the city. We're located just off the Wakehurst Parkway and Warringah Road, so it's a quick drop off. Car parking is that important for them? And then also opening hours. So, some parents need the 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. opening hours. And then going back to that is, your child. Every child is different. Every child has a unique personality, and how will the centre cater to that? What do they do to ensure the program caters to the voices of all the children? As an example, we have a program for each classroom, and we have a way of making sure that every child's voice is heard, so that when the educators are developing experiences for the children, that one child might have been to the zoo with their family on the weekend, which comes back to family partnership. Mum and dad let us know on Monday morning, we went to the zoo and we saw the seal show. And then how is that written into the program and expanded on with the children? So the it's relevant, they're interested, and then they're going to be engaged. So yeah, we're making sure that we're gathering, or that we've got all those children involved and interested, and we're utilizing that to make sure that the child feels secure. The biggest thing is feeling safe and secure in the classroom.
And I think like on that point, like I know when we've done tours in the past, I love some of the questions that you ask in Neysa and the team. It's like, what's their social needs? What's their emotional needs? What's their speech like? What's their sleep time like? Because all of those things do factor into the child. And as you said, every child is going to be different. So how can we sort of cater for their needs?
Yeah, and that goes from like a mum with a baby. At a very young age, bubs are doing all different types of sleep routines. So what does mum and dad want? Do they want baby to have a strict sleep schedule? Like the sleep is at 9, 12, and 2:30 without fail? Or at home, are they basically going off tired signs and going off their baby's cues and looking for tired signs, and there's no really strict schedule. So we're making sure that we work together with families and learning more about what they want and what their child needs at the end of the day. So one of the questions we always ask is, tell me about your child. Tell me about Adam. Tell me about them. Tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me more.
Are they active? What do they do? They sleep?
Yeah. Have they been left with grandparents before? Have they never left mum and dad before? All those things are going to be really important with them settling into childcare.
Yeah, and I think even if someone's doing a tour, it's like they want to know that the staff want to know that. That's probably good information to share if you are doing a tour. Telling them about your child's social needs, or have they been independent, and all those things, just so the team are aware of where you're at. I guess I wanted to ask you a few questions maybe about the centre specifically, if you don't mind, maybe just telling us a little bit about the centre itself. Obviously, we've got, baby rooms, the outdoor area. Why don't you just tell us a bit about the centre and the layout?
So at MindChamps Frenchs Forest, we have 2 levels of classrooms. So we have a younger age group on the first level, which is basically 2 baby rooms, and then a 2 to 3-year-old room, so a toddler room. This layout has worked really well because upstairs are the older children, so they're sort of more 2.5 to our school leavers at 5, nearly 6 years old. So the babies and the younger toddlers on the first level have access to outdoor play space that's really safe and secure, and the learning experiences can be tailored specifically for them, and we're not having to worry about 5 and 6-year-olds, charging around the playground. So it really means we've got a really lovely, safe space for them. We've also got an outdoor undercover area, so the children can be outside playing kind of rain, hail, or shine. Upstairs, we've got a toddler room, a 3 to 4-year-old room, and 4 to 5 rooms. So got our preschool program that we run upstairs. So, one question going back, to different questions that I guess that we get asked often is, what's the difference between preschool and long day care or childcare? So a lot of people, what they don't understand, I know when I first was at the Annandale Centre, when I was in there and we were running that, when people's children turned 3, they would often say, I remember being really shocked, they'd say, oh, okay, we're leaving at the end of this year because we're going off to preschool. I'd be like, what? What do you mean? There's like, we have a preschool program here. Why are you changing them? And families didn't really, I guess, understand what we're offering with the preschool program. So basically, well, here at our centre, and other centres do it as well, we run preschool program within a long day care setting. So we have our more formal teaching and learning within, I guess, preschool hours. We have a formal school readiness program, which incorporates the usual literacy and numeracy skills, all play-based, which I'll talk about soon. What's the difference between play-based learning and free play learning? But experiences that are, play-based school readiness. So we have literacy and numeracy, but then also the more, I guess, softer skills and holistic skills of independence and confidence. So tying shoelaces, doing skills to get children ready to be able to tie their shoelaces. Can they open and close their lunch boxes or their water bottle? Can they lift the lid independently? can they ask for help if they need it, which is really important to be able to use their voices. It's a whole range of different aspects that, if you speak to a kindergarten teacher, they're not really worried about can they write their name or can they count to whatever. Those things are the things that are going to make a child feel safe and secure when they go to school, to kindergarten, to give them the confidence. So that's what we really work on here. And what we see with our graduates, the feedback we get from parents is that the children just feel they love school, they're confident, they love learning, which is a really big part of our program.
Can you tell us a little bit about like the extracurricular things? Because as a parent, they always want to know what are the other things that we're doing. And I know at the centre, obviously, we do a little bit of yoga. We've got a teacher here that teaches a bit of yoga. We've got, bush kindy. We've got some educators that speak different languages, which is great. We've got a speech pathologist. And then MindChamps even have little add-ons, which include, sports, and they've had in the past theatre program. So why don't you just tell the parents a little bit about reading programs, some of the extracurricular stuff?
I actually just have, this is like our toddlers daily routine, which I'll just read out. So we have breakfast. So we offer breakfast from 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. I'm just going to read like the typical daily routine. We have family grouping until about 8 o'clock. Tabletop activities inside till 8:45. At the same time as any little toddlers that still need a nappy change, they get that. At 9 o'clock, it's pretty generic across all the rooms. We have what we call connecting as one time. So we do our welcome to country, we greet one another, and then have, the children start to learn, depending on the age, they relate to the physical world. So the weather, the days of the week, they sing songs, they come together as one group. After that, we have morning tea. Then at 9:40 a.m. for the toddlers, on a Monday, there's Spanish class, as we have a lot of multicultural educators here. It's wonderful. Tuesday's French. Wednesday's yoga class with one of our amazing educators. Thursday's dance class with one of our parents that's a dance teacher. And then on Fridays, every Friday morning, we have Trevor come and visit, and he runs our bush kindy program. That's incredible. The children absolutely love it. I know Marcus always collects sticks and leaves and things, and he's like, I'm taking this to show Trevor. So yeah, that's really cute. Then they get ready at 10:30 to go downstairs. We also have a playground down and a really big sandpit down on the lower level playground. So they've got access to 2 outdoor playgrounds. They do lots of gardening, feeding the animals, playing in the sandpit. So they have a good amount of outdoor time. They come upstairs, have lunch at about 11:45. This is for the 2 to 3-year-old room. Then they have a rest time. So speaking about that, we really work again with families. So this is an important question when you're touring centres, is what's your policy on sleep and rest? So our policy, and it's standard, I guess it's regulation in childcare, children need to be offered that time. But families, we work with families and their requests. Do they, especially in the 2 to 3-year-old age group, it's like, do not let my child fall asleep because they're going to be up to 10:30 at night. So we do need to give them rest in terms of lying on a bed, and we offer them a quiet activity. And then other families are like, they must have a sleep, which, we encourage sleep time for those children, or there might be a request of, they need to be up by whatever time. Then we have quiet activities until afternoon tea, which is at about 10 to 3. We do our MindChamps reading program every afternoon. So our MindChamps reading program is a world researched, science-backed program that's fun and engaging and really makes sure that children love reading. There's a lot of, research that's come out that shows that Australia is falling behind, further and further behind in terms of literacy standards. Can't remember, do you remember where we're ranked? But it's almost kind of third world. Yeah, it's not strong. It's a big problem in Australia. But this reading program, and with all of our activities, it's play-based, it's fun, it's engaging. We use the aspect of theatre for children to be engaged.
And I guess with MindChamps, it's like one thing that we do like about it is like, education happens from 0 to 6. I know if you haven't had a love for learning when you're young, and if you get a child in primary school or high school and you want to teach them some concept around maths and they haven't had a good experience, it's going to be really hard to sit down and sort of like working against the grain. But I mean, if you can develop that love at a young age for exploring and learning, in preschool and primary school, it's going to make it much easier as the child transitions into upper primary and high school to have that confidence to sort of run with some of those concepts.
And we all know, like everyone probably has it with something, but for example, you can be 50 years old and saying, I hate maths because of a bad emotional experience you had as a child, whether the teacher said you're not good at it or you just didn't get it and you felt stupid. And that creates an emotional attachment connection to maths for the rest of your life. So we don't want that. We're creating real love for learning and a positive experience around it. So the reading program then different learning activities based on the children's interests. So it's always coming back to what are the children interested in. Because if they're not interested in it, they're not going to learn. They're not going to be interested, basically. Then we have dancing in the afternoon at 4:30, late snack, and then home. Well, the centre closes at 6 o'clock. So that's a rundown for the toddlers. It's slightly different across all the classrooms, but that gives you an idea of what we do here.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall, and it's so good. I love coming to the centre because sometimes you get a little sneak peek of my son and get to see how he interacts and see what's happening, and it's nice to watch. But I guess also, can you just elaborate a little bit also on MindChamps a little bit? I know we've got, different learning zones and the Smiles approach and nutrition program and some other aspects that, are quite good. And some of the values I find quite powerful. One for champs in preschool, but even for adults, I find some of the MindChamps values are very connecting.
Yeah. So I guess going back to when you're looking for a childcare centre, and if one of the questions is to ask about the curriculum and the educational approach and how they approach learning. So I mentioned before play-based learning and free play. So there's under the early years learning framework, it's mandatory for centres to provide the opportunity for play-based learning. And what a lot of centres, what I noticed when I was touring centres, it's good to have a look at different centres. This, I guess, take that some educators or some different centres would take on play-based learning, and it was more like free play. So children could do what they wanted, run around. I see educators. This is like my direct experience. Not everyone. I'm not saying everyone does that at all, because there are amazing centres out there, and the industry has really come a long way. But the educators just kind of standing there watching while children run riot, and it's they're having fun and they're playing, and there are times for that. However, I think sometimes the actual learning part can get missed. So play-based learning is learning through play, but the learning also is there. It's intent. Their learning does actually occur. So there's intention behind what's set up in the environment. So when you're looking through different centres, have a look at what's on display. Maybe we can go through some different activities. Yeah, we'll do that in a minute. But basically, what are the types of activities that are set up? Do they have intention behind them? And this is where MindChamps and I guess the curriculum and the educational approach is to make sure that all the staff have 200 hours, up to 200 hours of training. It's really embedded into the centres that this part of like engagement and the setup of the environment and the intention behind what we're doing. It's not just setting up some blocks on the mat and then a child can go over and build something with the blocks. It's really deep to learning. So it might be, using the zoo example, mum comes in, we went to the zoo and we saw the seal show. So then there might be some talk in the group time about, oh, the zoo and seals and what other animals do we see, at the zoo. Then it could be that the child draws a picture, of their, depending on the age, obviously. Now older rooms can draw a picture of an animal at the zoo or even the zoo itself. Then they can take their picture and then they can go and sit on the mat and maybe build a structure that they saw in the zoo and get the animals out that we have. So they could build a zoo, I guess, with the construction items. And we've got animals here, and then they get the animals and they make their own little zoo. And then even to take it one step further is we'll often take a photo of that and with the child in it, for example, and display their artwork with something meaningful about it. So they get a sense of pride and achievement. Then we might, whilst doing that activity, count the animals or count the pieces. So there's, the writing part, learning how to write the names of the animals that they're doing. There's the physical, kinesthetic component of building, the creativity of drawing. So yeah, it's not just set up something with no meaning behind it. There's a lot of meaning behind it.
And I guess you're touching on a lot of the zones that we have at MindChamps and even the Smiles approach as well.
Yeah.
And as Heidi's saying, there's a lot of research behind the curriculum. So there is a lot of great support that we do get with that.
Yeah. So one question that I think is important to ask is, what's your curriculum? What's your approach to learning? What's your approach to education with children? Where does that come from?
Okay, we might introduce Neysa, our centre director. She can come up and tell us a little bit about her story, and then we're going to go through some different activities.
Okay. Sure.
All right, so we got Neysa here, our centre director. Neysa, why don't you just tell us a little bit about, why you got in childcare and why you enjoy.
So I'm Neysa. I've been in the early childhood industry for about 7 years now. I started off as a trainee running a baby room. I first got into childcare too because my mum used to take me to work with her when I was probably 9 years old. Started off as a trainee in the baby's room, slowly worked my way up. Got the opportunity to become the centre director, and I've been at MindChamps Frenchs Forest for going on 2 years now, I would say.
Tell me about, what is it that sparks you? I mean, like for me, I love walking into a room of toddlers and just seeing the smiles or the curiosity, things like that. What are the little things that sort of spark you or that you're passionate about?
So I think, especially for me, it's like seeing the children come into care from when they're just a baby and then seeing them go off to school. Like we've got our graduation coming up in a week's time, and I'm already thinking about how I'm going to be crying at the graduation because I've known half the children since they were a baby themselves. So it's seeing them come into our care and like nurturing them from just a baby and building those relationships with the families as well. Like they kind of become your family as well. So, and then having a team that supports you as well. Definitely walking into the centre just feels So
and I think for parents, the biggest thing that they like is the staff. If I was a parent, I'd encourage parents when they take a tour, if it's your first time at a centre or you're exploring a new centre, look at the engagement that the staff are having with the children and ask questions, because really at the end of the day, the staff are taking care of the children. And it's such an important quality to have good staff. I know we've got an amazing team here, and you're fortunate enough to lead that team, and how vital that is for everyone. Why don't we have a look at some of the different activities that we've sort of got here on display, and you can talk us through, I guess, that learning process. So just follow us over this way. You can have a little look around the centre. I know it might be a little bit hard to see, but we've got different zones.
We've got Santa.
Set up. We've got Santa too. But one of the zones, why don't you just talk us through some different activities in this zone?
So this would be called our numeracy zone. So this is this activity is through
So we've got different components.
Yeah,
I guess.
so it's like nature-based. So bringing on from Trevor, who comes in on Friday. The children have been talking non-stop about him, so this is more of like a loose parts play activity, but it also incorporates numeracy and then Indigenous perspectives as well. So you can see over here, it's counting 1 to 10. Counting 1 to 10 with Indigenous perspectives, which is what Trevor does on a Friday. So that's all links into this. But yeah, so if a child were to be at this, you'd have an educator sitting there prompting the child, scaffolding them, so they would get encouraging them to count to 5. So putting 5 stones on there, so that's like encouraging their senses, and then also getting them to learn how to count to 5 in a play-based way.
For a child, it's like the kinesthetic, the visual, seeing the number, connecting it all together, counting it with an educator.
Yeah. Feel, see, hear, all of the different ways.
It comes back to the SMILES approach, which you can jump online and look a little bit further into what the SMILES approach is itself.
And it's also coming from the child as well, because the children have talked a lot about Trevor and nature, and about the play-based learning that they do with him.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's explore. So, I mean, what age group would this normally would you have this set up for?
This could be from 3 till 5. You could do it for younger children as well, but in terms of like the concept of the counting, I would say from 3 till 5.
And why don't you take so and just have a look at this other display that we have here and talk us through, I guess, the learning for a champ that would be here and what sort of involved here.
So this too came from a learning observation of a child and from a family interest as well, because they went to the reptile park on the weekend, so they had set this up in the classroom because they got to see the crocodiles, etc. at the reptile park. But this is more for like a toddler age group, so this again is bringing like their senses into it, and then the loose parts play as well. So you can see children, and this kind of incorporates into like the theme of what they're doing for the week. So they might, first of all, it comes from the family, and then the child's interest, and then they've been reading a book about dinosaurs, and then so the educators have set this activity up, and you can see the children sit here for hours, because again, they're touching these stones, they're making like the dramatic play noises of a dinosaur, like wow, and then going on, and then touching here, we've got like Play-Doh in here as well, so which the children also help to make. So yeah.
So I guess for like the average parent like that hasn't had an education background like yourself, I guess one thing that you're sort of saying is the child's developing an interest, and then you're running with that interest to educate. Is that about right? Like, they've got an interest, they've done something on the weekend, parents have said something, and you're using that interest to educate.
Yeah, and then building on it too. Like I said, from the weekend, then to the storybook, and then creating this tough tray, which I can imagine will go on in their curriculum for at least 2 weeks. So,
So then, like, from an education point of view, it's sort of like you could imagine like linear lines. That you've got different approaches. Yes, we can just read about dinosaurs, but let's explore, the play with it. Let's write about it. Let's read about it. Let's draw about it. And you're sort of crossing it in all different paths with that one interest.
Yeah.
Awesome. And that translates to the different zones that we have at MindChamps. You can do a bit more research on that online. Okay, we'll go back and we'll continue with some different questions. All right, so I guess there's so many questions that I thought this would be a useful time.
Oh yeah. Well, I was just going to touch on 2 more. I guess there's more. There's a lot more, but 2 ones that I wanted to cover when speaking to a childcare centre, going on a tour. A big thing is how to what's your child going to eat there. So there's so much more research now about the importance of nutrition. And I know in my experience with my children in the early days, some of the food they ate, I remember them giving them, jelly every day for morning tea, or just stuff that like, yeah, it's not that bad at the end of the day, but it's like that's full of sugar. And also, it seemed to be every day they're having spaghetti bolognese, white pasta one day, white rice the next day. Yeah, so that's a really important thing that you can ask for. You can look at, you can ask to see the centre's menu because that needs to be on display and communicated to parents.
I guess nutrition's so important. Like I know for us, like we're quite health conscious as a family, and nutrition can translate to behaviour, to learning. Like it is vital for growth. So that's a big aspect. Asking at a centre, what is nutrition? I know we've originally been working with Mandy, and now she's working with MindChamps directly, which is amazing. So if you get a chance to look up Mandy and some of her work.
Mandy's Sacher, it's Sacher. Follow her Instagram and her Facebook. So she does all the nutrition programs for all MindChamps centres. She has some great tips online, like supermarket swaps. What kind of, what are the healthy options in the supermarket? Swaps for muesli bars or bread or whatever. So yeah, she's great. Like our menu has things like Sanchoy bao for children, and they love it. Or the spaghetti. Say it again. Fish cakes.
The smoothies.
They have smoothies. Whole food smoothies. They have black bean brownies. So they have these really yummy food that's so packed full of nutrients. They eat quinoa. They eat chia seeds. They eat bliss balls. So yeah.
And I think this is where I like where you're talking earlier about the education. There's a lot of depth to it. There's a lot of depth to the nutrition as well. It's not, Mandy's got a team around her that's researching, and we invest obviously a lot in the food because it's such an important aspect. Making sure we have high quality, because it affects education and learning and behaviour. So it's really high on our values and ensure that everyone has the same. Did you have any more things
the other things I'll just run over quickly would be that I'd look out for is
this is a parent coming on.
For a parent, what to look for when you're choosing a childcare centre. Parent communications. How does a centre communicate with parents? How often? A lot of centres now, and we have one. It's an app, so parents have an app on their phone, and then we post daily updates on the child, the menu, everything about their day, their sleep time. The other thing would be in terms of that communication is open communication. Does the centre have an open door policy? Can you come in? Can you discuss who? Can you discuss things with? And the other one is, I guess, participation in events where you really build that community and where you really have access to your child's world for a period of time. So, things like Grandparents' Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Easter, Christmas, what do centres do for those events?
Yeah, so involving the community.
Yeah, totally. And families, yeah.
What about what would you expect, I guess, for a parent if they're starting at a childcare centre, like in terms of, meeting the staff, orientation? What should that process look like for a mum or dad?
Once you, I guess, decide on a childcare centre, one big thing is to make sure you feel comfortable with that decision. And as a new mum, you might not feel entirely comfortable about sending your child to childcare in general. However, there's two things I wanted to say here is there's a bit of fake it until you make it, I'd say, because your child can really pick up on how you're feeling. And being okay with the decision to send your child to childcare. So there's this thing, and I think it's more prevalent in mums and dads, of mum guilt. That's a generalization, but I'd say it's probably more prevalent with mums. And I experienced it before when I used to send Chloe my first to childcare, I'd feel sick in my stomach the night before, like anxiety, like, oh my God, just got to go to childcare. I'm ruining my child's life. I should be at home full time with her. And there's a whole, it was a bit of an undercurrent. So it's not something overt that is really said, although it can be by certain people. But, all the language of, I'm lucky I get to stay at home full time with my child because my husband makes enough money. Or I stay at home with my child because, the money I make from going to work, it costs the same as sending them to childcare. So I'll keep them home with me. And there's this bit of there can be, not everyone feels like that. I remember meeting mums that didn't feel like this at all. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. but that, you know, your child should be at home with you full time, and sending them to childcare is only out of necessity, and you know, if you didn't have to, you wouldn't. But having been now inside these centres, is I've totally flipped, and I can like the benefits for your child of coming to these places is, and you know, you got to choose the right place again, and ensure that you, yeah,
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next. Like, what do you see the benefits being? Because I know, you know, some children don't attend childcare, which is totally okay. You know, they have that choice or people helping. But from what I've noticed, you know, children that do, but for myself personally, I noticed, you know, benefits socially, for instance, and independence. You know, for someone that attends childcare, like, what are the benefits for a child, I guess?
Yeah. Look, the big one, there's many. One of the biggest ones that I see, I guess, from the inside is what the children experience here. Well, definitely in the centres that I'm in, is that there are people, paid professionals, that love what they do, that do activities like what we just demonstrated with children all day long. That's what they do. They love to do it. Your child gets so much out of these experiences. Whereas if I'm at home with my child, I don't go
Limited
and set
resources.
up, limited resources, limited education on my behalf.
Yep.
These people in this industry are educated on how to teach children at this specific developmental period and this time of their life. So they're trained to do it. They know what they're doing. And the other thing is that they genuinely love and care for these children. So I just, that's my biggest thing, is like, don't feel bad about sending your child to childcare, and they get so much out of it, and they have so much fun here. And you know, not every moment of the day, every single day, but they love it. Like Trevor, as I said before, Marcus comes home, he wants to collect things to show Trevor, the bush kindy guy, and they're learning languages. I can't speak another language. I can't teach my child another language. And then what we're finding is the children that go through the whole program, they're going to school and they're really confident, and they've got all those independent skills.
I think that's a big one, is independent skills. You know, being okay with working something out, and you know, working with other children, and the social aspect for sure.
And I'm not saying for 1 second, if you know, mums want to be at home full time with their children, great. Like, and if that's your passion and that's, you know, that you love to do that, I think that's wonderful. For me, I needed a balance. So at first, you know, I had to think, I should be at home all the time with my children, but I needed to work as well. And I think the benefit of that, like, that's where all this came from, is I wanted to be an inspiration for my children. I wanted to show them what's possible. I wanted to be an example for them. And to make, for me as a person to thrive, then I needed both. So and I don't think mum should necessarily feel bad about that.
Another thing that we mentioned earlier was, you know, the in-depth questioning that we like to ask parents when they come in. And I know one of the questions that we have on a form is, you know, talking about speech. And we're really fortunate to come across a centre director that worked with us, and Lucy, that is a speech pathologist. Can you just talk a little bit about the importance of speech? And obviously Lucy would be able to elaborate a lot more than we can. However, just picking up on that, and how it's important for parents, and how we have Lucy involved in the centre.
Yeah, so Lucy has been with us since we opened the centre at Annandale, and she's an absolute asset. She was a centre director with us. She was a qualified early childhood teacher, so she has her university degree in early childhood. And then at the same time she was doing that, she was studying to be a speech pathologist. So now she supports the children and families in our centres and does speech screeners. So we run them like twice a year, kind of more formally, but anytime a parent has any kind of concern, or an educator as well, about their child's speech, Lucy can do a screener. We don't charge anything for it. And then she runs speech therapy sessions for children within the centres. And it's just such a, it means things can get really like flagged quite early. And at this age, early, you know, the early intervention is better. So it's really important for those things to be picked up on early, and changes can be made really fast.
I wanted to talk a little bit about, like, a lot of parents will ask, you know, about staff, you know, like, and the qualifications, and And I think, as we said earlier, that is probably one of the best assets that we have. And we have such an amazing team. And I'm not going to rally off everyone, but you know who you are. You're just an absolute asset. I love coming to work to see our team. But can you just talk a little about, staff qualifications and ratios and ECTs? And for a parent that wouldn't really know much about staff, what can we sort of give them as a snapshot as to what to look for?
I was just reading through the comments.
Okay.
I missed the question.
Talk about
looking at
staff,
the questions people are asking.
ECTs, ratios,
right. Yeah.
what's
So
important.
I guess, there's the regulatory framework that we operate within. So there's the first thing is ratios, but also qualifications. So you need a certain number of university qualified staff, and you need diplomas, a certain number of diploma qualified educators as well. But I guess so. Like there's the standard you have to meet that, otherwise you get a fine by the authorities. But what on top of that, what I guess we do and what MindChamps does is extra training. So it's not just that base level of your qualification; it's ongoing training. It's MindChamps provides up to 200 hours of extra training for teachers, and so it's also taking care of the team. So there's what we make sure we do, like these people, when you look at, if we just go into it, the award wages for people, like it's hard to live on, and so we just really want to support our educators and do everything that we can. We're not someone that this is another important question to ask, is who owns the childcare centre, because there's big publicly listed corporate companies that run a lot of childcare centres, and they're basically investment bankers. Nothing wrong with that, but what's driving them is the bottom line and their profit and loss statements, and so they're running on really, really, really tight budgets. Whereas as a more family-owned centre, we can do way better than that. Connection.
Connection for sure. What about like for a parent that I guess is starting, their child's getting to preschool age? Maybe yourself or Neysa can talk a little bit about school readiness, I guess, preparing for that next year in transition.
Yeah, well, I spoke a bit about that before. So I guess it's, independence, it's confidence, resilience, the emotional side, as well as what we do with our reading program and our academics. So very holistic approach. I think I've just noticed there's a few questions. Sorry, guys, I haven't seen these earlier. Thanks, Georgia. We love Harvey too. Brandon and Sophia. And then we've got a question: what languages can the educators speak? So we've got Portuguese, Spanish, Filipino, French. So we have a whole variety of languages, and the children get to learn those things, and they really pick up on that.
Let's go through these questions
do you want to read them out?
Is there a clear communication system between staff and parents? Okay, no, but I think we touched on that a little bit before.
How are updates on a child's daily activities and progress communicated to parents? So we have an app called Kinderloop. So parents get notifications on an app. Neysa, do you want to maybe talk to that?
So on Kinderloop, you get live updates throughout the day of nappy changes, exactly what the nappy change was, whether it was wet, soiled, whether cream was applied, the exact time. So there's like a timestamp that educators will click, whether sunscreen was applied, what time that was, and at the bottom too, you'll see the menu as well for the day. If there's ever any menu changes for the day, we'll post a picture of it and upload it to you. And then you get a daily story too about what they've done for the day. Depending on the room and age group, sometimes it might be like 5 different posts of different learning zones, so the creative zone, writing zone, or sometimes it might be one long post with what the children have done for the day with up to 24 photos. And normally the educators will do an additional photos and just like additional photos of our day. So
I think as a parent, that's the best part.
Getting those photos is the best.
I love it. I love seeing the photos and seeing what Marcus is up to. Let's see what other questions we had here. from
so
some people.
Okay, we did that one. Love this. We'll definitely do it with my children. Thanks, Myrna. Mandy's great. Yep, she's amazing. And then let me just see. Sorry, there was another question about Montessori. I saw. Oh, I don't know if it's there anymore.
What was it asking? Just how does
the question? How does it differ? So, how does the MindChamps, Reggio, Montessori? Yeah, it is a good question.
Because it's like, I guess, for us, when we came across MindChamps, I guess we like, alternate education. Like I'm always thinking, how can I help my child, be prepared for the future or become a leader, and how can I, as a parent, do the best job that I can to bring out the best in them. And I think, I like the Montessori approach. There's lots of great things there. And I think the MindChamps approach sort of integrates well with it, but it's slightly different. Maybe you can elaborate.
Yeah, I guess like our older two children go to a Montessori school. Yeah, we love that approach. So yeah, as Adam said, we're into different, I guess slightly alternative models of education. But the similarities between them all is that it's child focused and it's child led, and we're really following the direction, but having it's like called freedom with responsibility. There's also boundaries, so they have freedom within boundaries. Like for example, the environment as the third teacher is a huge one. That would be similar amongst all of them. MindChamps puts a huge emphasis on the environment. So we have learning zones, we call them, and the setup of the environment is the third teacher. So what I observe here and also in the Montessori classroom is children are engaged with what they're doing. They're not just running around. It's like the expectations of the classroom and it's the environment that's set up. Yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything to that or. Yeah.
I think also, like I know with Montessori, like with our older two children, they will focus on certain projects. Lucas is into soccer at the moment. That's his passion. So he will do a project on soccer, but then it'll translate, as we said earlier, into, he'll write about, his favorite soccer player and then draw a picture and, translate into different forms of education.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit similar to what Neysa was talking about with the dinosaurs. A toddler comes in and, has a book or something, and then we read about it, we explore and play, and then maybe draw and write and count, etc.
And probably what Maria Montessori did, she did that, whereas MindChamps has done it with, because it's like a modern day version of it. So this has been developed with thinking that, the year 2030 in mind. What's the world going to be like now? Like look at AI. What's important? The old methods of education aren't relevant anymore.
I think that's true, because I think, and this is what parents probably don't see, and us as owners see, there's an education board on MindChamps, and you can look that up online, that are probably researching, what are the trends, what's around the corner. And as you did mention, like, internet, AI, like, where my Marcus at 3 years old, what I was taught at school in the 90s is going to be very different to what he's taught at school, because the world is evolving. So how does education
yeah, I think education
needs to, correct, education will need to
in the schooling system.
Education here at MindChamps will adapt, I guess, is what I'm saying, and has adapted to prepare a child for the future. Let's see if there's any more questions online.
Is there training and supporting children with special needs? Yeah, so children with special needs, so we have, if there is any child flagged with special needs, we have inclusion support. So we really work with the family to make sure that they get the support they need. In terms of training, we have webinars that we give educators, and also for that inclusion support position, we're looking for educators that have experience in those areas. And also we often move educators around so that ones with more experience and more of a passion in that area, for example, are there to support the child and the family. Yeah, cool.
I think I've gone through most of my questions that I think parents might have. Is there anything, Neysa or Heidi, that you wanted to add for any parents that they might find useful?
Look, the only other thing I was going to say is that the other question that I know gets asked a lot is, will there be a place for my child? Do I need to put my child's name down on a waiting list as soon as I find out I'm pregnant? Availability, what are the hours, all the logistical stuff. So we're in November, nearly December now. Right now at Frenchs Forest, we have a few spaces, like there's a handful of places left I know there's a couple like across the different age groups. So if you are interested, just reach out to us because we do it's a small amount. So it would need to be quick because we're going through the whole re-enrollment process at the moment. But also the other question is, do you need to start at the start of the year, or does it have to be, at the different times? So most childcare centres you could start at, different times in the year. This is the time, I guess, to get onto your enrolment because the older children leave to go to school. So it opens up places, which is what we have at the moment to start next year. And the other thing, I guess, is the logistical stuff, location. We have families that live locally. We also have families that are traveling through to the city. So those things, consider when you're looking for a childcare centre. Sometimes you might need to be a little bit creative about where you choose.
Cool. All right, is there one thing maybe that you want to leave our parents with? If there's one little tip or a little bit of advice that we can go through each, maybe on the spot, on the fly, anything that you want to leave everyone with before we thank them? What would you say to parents, about childcare or anything, any little tip that you could give a parent?
I feel like to families, when you tour the centre, you'll know whether it's the right centre for you from the moment you walk in the door. You'll feel that. You'll see the educators interacting with the children, and if the children are happy, you'll kind of get that feeling of
Go back to the basics of that.
Yeah.
Are the children happy? Are you seeing children happy in the centre?
Yeah, I was going to say for parents, it's like, for me, it's like, coming to the centre, it's the staff. Like when you do a tour, see the interactions, talk to the staff, ask some questions.
Yeah.
Don't feel shy to.
Yeah.
If you're with the centre director and there's, we'll have a room leader, someone in there, maybe you can be introduced to them and ask them some questions.
Definitely.
See how they interact with your children. Because at the end of the day, I think our main goal is, fostering amazing people here. We've really worked hard in the last few years to have a phenomenal team, and we've got some people that we've even got from overseas that are amazing educators here, and we're so grateful for an amazing team and management that we have. So looking through, and as Neysa said, you get a sense of the feel. Does the place look safe? Does it look clean? What does it look like? The displays, all of those things are great. Ask all those other questions about staff and qualifications and all those things, but get a feel for the staff, because I think that is where the best asset is for childcare. Is there anything that you want to add, a little tip for parents before we close out?
No, I think I've covered everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to thank everyone for jumping online on a Wednesday night at 8 till 9 p.m. We know everyone's got busy families and things to do, but we're also going to send this recording as well if you want to go back and if you didn't get to watch it all. So if you do want to have a look at the centre, you can jump on the website, have a look, Frenchs Forest, MindChamps, and
book a tour with me.
Book a tour with Neysa. We've got Angie and Em as well, amazing educators there. So feel free to jump online, book a tour, give us a call, and we'd love to see you at the centre. All right, thanks guys. Have a good night. Bye.
Enjoy your night.